Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com, produced by Sharc Creative. I'm John Marino, and we are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built, by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By White Plains Hospital. By Michael Labriola Landscape Design and Construction of Armonk. And by Tompkins Medepac Bank. Here at the Cup of Joe political show here on Westchester Talk Radio, we are joined by Howard Sturman. Howard Sturman is the publisher and CEO of the Hometown Media Group across Westchester, the South Shore area of Westchester, and a political analyst at AM 1460 WVOX Radio in New Rochelle. Howard Sturman, welcome back to Westchester Talk Radio. It's been an interesting end of summer into the early portion of fall. We are still dealing with COVID. Do we see vaccine mandates coming our way in Westchester like we see in some areas in New York City now?
I think it's possible, John. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always nice to be here. But yes, I do think it is possible. You look at our governor, who has moved to pass these mandates for public hospitals, which, if not successful, could create probably the biggest healthcare crisis that New York has ever endured. But I think it's possible. I see people, it seems like everybody's following one another. So yes, it's possible. That's the only way I could say.
Mm-hmm. We see it in New York City, where in a few days, if you're a teacher and you're not vaccinated in at least one shot, you won't be able to work already. As you alluded to in the healthcare and the hospital industry, we see people losing their jobs, and the way things are being set up, they won't be able to apply for unemployment. How do we run a hospital system like this? For example, as the governor has alluded to, she may call in the National Guard. If I need an intravenous line put in me, do you think a National Guard member might know where to stick the needle or the apparatus that needs to be inserted into me?
Well, it might work for you. It might work for you, but not for me. I am very, very disturbed by this. I think this has not been thought out. And you have to understand that the healthcare workers that aren't vaccinated, which I believe is about 80,000 healthcare workers in New York, they have their reasons. And look, I'm not an anti-vax, but I also...
You've gotten a vaccine, so you cannot be anti-vax.
That's right. I am vaccinated. I am debating whether or not to get the booster or not, because the problem is, and this is the problem I have as well as the other healthcare workers, is we don't trust what comes out of Washington. And this has become more of a political thing, I believe, than following the science. And if you think about the CDC, who came up with these various mask mandates and other things, they voted 16-2 not to proceed with that. But Rachel Walensky, who is the CDC director, she vetoed that and overturned that and decided on her own without any backing or basis, I'm going forward with the political agenda. And my feeling is that, people say, why would they do this? My feeling is that it's a diversion. You don't have to talk about other issues if you're talking COVID, because scaring people and forcing them to do things to their body that would normally not be ever stood for in the past, is not going to work at the end of the day.
Now, I do believe in vaccines, but we see the president come out before we get the CDC's verdict that we should get booster shots, as the panel decided, although that got shot down, and then they were approved for 65 and over and for those with certain conditions. And the president apparently came out and said we need booster shots before we got the official medical word. Does this lead to the disconnect between Washington, D.C., between those who make our laws, our rules and regulations, with the average person on the street?
Well, yeah, there is a major disconnect. And for the first time ever, in a recent poll, this country does not trust COVID information. It became 49% of the people now trust it. So that is a negative, and it has dropped. I think it was 58% when Biden first took office. So in poll taking, that's a big drop. And again, there's been so many, I'm going to call them lies because I can't think of a better description of them. They're not half-truths. They're not anything else. There's been so many lies that have come out of Washington, and for that matter, our state government. So it's hard to know who to trust.
How about COVID numbers? And we see them go up, down, up, down. We worried about after Labor Day, a potential spike after people got together on Labor Day weekend and even beyond that too. And here we are now, October, ready to begin, final quarter of the year, ready to begin. COVID numbers around Westchester, where do they stand as opposed to just a few weeks back?
Well, everybody has a different way of calculating this. And I want to start with that. We should not be counting cases. We should be counting hospitalizations and deaths. And those are the numbers that count. If we counted every person that ever got the flu, those numbers would be staggering. But we count how many deaths there are in flu. Which clearly COVID has overtaken over the last 18 months, I guess it is, or not quite 18. But the counting method is the larger number seems to put fear in everybody.
Okay, it puts fear in people, but should we not count anybody who has come down with a case of COVID, whether or not that person succumbs fatally to it or not, just so we know how much of it is out there?
No, because
and where it is out there, too.
Have we ever asked about any other disease or any other virus? No,
but this
haven't.
Is much more, just so much more serious than the flu.
Says who?
Says many medical experts and people I know who've gotten it and had it and dealt with it. People.
But why is the death rate dropped dramatically?
Because of everything we've done to try to mitigate and stem the flow, like vaccines.
What's everything? Distancing. It seems to me the only thing that's been done is vaccines.
Right. I think people have alluded also to the guidance of doing things like distancing and doing other things too, and staying at home and doing what needs to be done. Not so much anymore because we have been given the green light to do a lot of what we did before, but I don't think society has really gotten back to what we did before. And I think that's the real, I don't want to use the term drawback, but I think that's the real answer to what we are looking for. If we opened everything up totally like it was before, what would happen?
Being allowed. We're not being allowed to go back.
Right.
We're not being allowed.
For medical reasons why we're not being allowed?
I don't see it. Show me where they come from.
Okay. Now we see schools and the way they are operating around Westchester. We have, I guess, a combination of in-person and hybrid and remote learning going on, depending upon the school district. We have the shutdown of the Blind Brook District recently.
The Ridge Street School closed not because of COVID. It closed because of damage that was done as a result of the last storm. The same thing for New Rochelle High School. It wasn't a COVID reason that it closed. Unfortunately, the end result is online learning, but people want to commingle it. I think you're talking apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm. The school systems, how are they reacting throughout this new school year so far? Are they trying to operate normally, or is there still lots of trepidation about what is going on with COVID? And do they seem a bit hands-offish in some districts, or is it pretty much normal operation most of the way around?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to respect the awesome responsibility that the administrative people have caring for tens of thousands of students, and from 8:30 to 3:30, these kids, these other people's children, are their responsibility. So, if I was sitting in that chair, yes, I would be overcautious. I probably would not want to take any chance of risking any one of my children that I have under my charge, anything. But are they acting? No, they're following what the teachers union asked for, and what they got.
We have a new governor, Kathy Hochul. You talked about her when we opened up. Is Kathy Hochul governing the way we expected her to govern? And I think a lot of people expected her to be just left of center. She seems to be moving far left. Is she trying to solidify her base to run for election next year? I don't use the term re-election technically because she was not elected governor. She was elected lieutenant governor and was elevated when Andrew Cuomo stepped down.
Well, first of all, I can tell when somebody is interested in running again by the volume of press releases that we get. And she is outdoing any other candidate in this state as far as press releases.
All right. Now, she has a reputation of working very hard. As one local representative said to me, a Westchester representative in the state assembly said to me, she's always kept a pretty tough schedule. She starts in Albany. She's from Buffalo. She may go up to Buffalo for an event and then out to Montauk and work her way back through Manhattan and then through Westchester and gets back to Albany and finds out that there's something going on in Rochester at 8 p.m. that maybe she should be at. So she'll go to Rochester and get back to Albany after midnight. Could it be just that she's a workaholic?
Well, I think, look, just because someone works hard doesn't mean they're working well. Okay. And I have some concerns about her. And I don't have, I saw her last speech where she was at a church and talked about the connection to God and to Jesus. And this was kind of a little eerie. This is the kind of stuff that when the evangelists from the Deep South would be talking about, that used to trouble everybody also. So I think she is working real hard to pick up her base. She was known as a moderate Democrat. She is now clearly a borderlines on progressive. She's following all the leads there. Is she popular? No, she's not popular yet because most people
don't know her, so it's tough.
That's right. Be popular. Yeah, no, she's, as hard as she tries to be in the news, she just hasn't taken off as a media darling. Like Cuomo used to know how to work the media, and media, whether they liked him or not, he knew how to work them.
He didn't know how to work you, though, right?
No.
Do that. See, somebody's trying to work you right now, and you're basically telling them, no, we'll talk later, right?
That's what I just did.
There you go. Uh-huh. That's kind of like the treatment I get, right? Hey, Marino, you don't know how to work me. I'll work you.
I have your telephone number blocked anyway.
I know. I've tried and nothing goes through. So it just bounces back. So, but Andrew Cuomo, like you said, knew how to work the media. Kathy Hochul so far has been a different animal in that regard. Could it be that she doesn't care what the media thinks of her?
No, I think it's just the opposite. I think she cares very much. She hasn't hit her stride yet. She is becoming more and more media savvy every day, but she's not there yet, and she has a little time to work the crowd to get to a place where it might work out for her.
She did get rid of Howard Zucker, the health commissioner, who was hand in hand with Andrew Cuomo in that mandate over a year ago of taking COVID positive patients out of hospitals and sticking them in nursing homes and adult care facilities, leading to that whole fiasco. And there was talk when Hochul took office that Howard Zucker's days were numbered. There was a legality, apparently, where she could not let him go until they were 45 days into her new administration. Now, Howard Zucker is getting the heave-ho, as other Cuomo stalwarts are getting the heave-ho and have gotten it too as well. And apparently she's cut off funding from the state for Cuomo associates who are leaving office, but may be involved or embroiled into the investigations into Andrew Cuomo's alleged sexual harassment or the way he handled nursing homes during the COVID crisis, which that seems to be a good move, that if you did something wrong, the state is not going to pay for it. You have to go pay for and defend yourself out of your own pocket.
Well, that was a lot. That was a mouthful there, John. But Howard Zucker, I believe, is the first one to drop here. This investigation, everybody can read the handwriting on the wall. Somebody has to take a fall for the nursing home debacle during the COVID.
Or is this, you say they have to take a fall? Is this the new governor looking at what Howard Zucker might have done and not it really being a fall, but her looking at it and saying, Howard, you did something wrong here. I cannot have you employed by me.
No, I think she and as well as he are starting to feel the heat. This investigation has been heating up. And, he would probably, if it came down that he was charged with something, he'd have to resign. So this was a cleaner way of him getting out of office. And he also had his own issues.
We've seen other people not to the level of a Howard Zucker be let go by the governor or about to be let go, have gotten their walking papers, maybe have a little time to clean their office.
By the way, if Cuomo didn't put words in his mouth, we wouldn't even know who Howard Zucker was.
Well, there were
a couple of company man
where Andy kind of publicized him, that dancing thing a couple of years ago where he talked about Howard Zucker, I think, couldn't dance, for example. You remember that? Like other people can? Yeah. We got to know Howard Zucker a bit at that time a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, a lot better, as it turned out, during the COVID crisis, and now he seems to be paying the price, at least.
Well, to be the state's doctor, the question you have to ask yourself was, would you go to him as your personal doctor?
Go to him? Howard Sturman. Would you go to Howard Zucker?
No.
That about, I guess, solves the issue right there, basically.
Yeah. You want somebody that's going to talk straight to you, good or bad. That's the kind of doctor most people would like. And Howard Zucker has not shown that kind of propensity to speak straight.
Kathy Hochul seems to be shoring up her left flank because people like New York City public advocate Jumaane Williams might be interested in running for governor. He ran against her for lieutenant governor last time around, and she beat him pretty handily. But word is Jumaane has been out and about talking to potential donors. He's had trouble raising money seemingly for higher office through the years, but just trying to get a feel of, if he did run for governor, what kind of money could he raise? Whose support could he get? We also hear that Yonkers Mayor Mike Spano might be interested in throwing his hat into the ring. And here's one somewhat out of the blue, or maybe the environmental green far left, I guess. State Senator Alexandra Biaggi seems to be interested in possibly running for governor. She was a big Cuomo critic down the stretch, the final months of the Cuomo administration, because of the alleged sexual harassment. She, of course, is a close confidant of AOC Congresswoman, Bronx and Queens Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who, of course, grew up in Westchester, in northern Westchester. What do you make of all these names seemingly coming out of the woodwork right now who might possibly run for governor? And then we have a true dark horse candidate locally here, maybe in County Executive George Latimer, which that could go one way or another. He seems not to be interested at the moment, but a real dark horse. He just kind of a dark horse, looks at things, sizes things up, and then finally makes his run late down the stretch. How do you size up all of this right now here as we hit the final quarter of 2021?
a lot of these people are legends in their own minds, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. They want to say that they ran for governor, or they considered running for governor, but at the end of the day, I think there's going to be at least another 10 Democratic candidates.
10?
Yeah, a minimum.
How
And
does Kathy Hochul survive that then?
she doesn't. She doesn't. I don't see her getting reelected.
You don't? Do you
No.
see her being the nominee?
I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure of that because technically she never really won statewide office. She actually was on the coattails of Andrew Cuomo.
Right.
So it's not like she's a proven winner. Nobody knows what she could do in a statewide election.
So why are the Democrats in such, I don't want to use the term disarray, but everything's so up in the air about all of this when they are the incumbent party, basically mostly statewide in the areas of this state that matter the most, downstate. Yet so many people seem to have their sights set on Albany, on the governor's chair, the governor's mansion, and taking direct aim at Kathy Hochul.
Well, first of all, it's most of these people, it's a big pay increase. You could start there. Certainly visibility for the future being the governor of the state of New York is not a small job. This is way too early. We're talking about, we don't even know all the candidates. We don't know what part of the party is going to pull away from Hochul and look to another candidate. Right now it's fun to talk about, but do we know that George Latimer is going to run again? No, we don't know that. He's coming into his final term. He's running for his final term. What's he going to do 4 years later from now? It's only 2 years he has to run. I don't know if he wants to do it.
Monty Williams, the word is that he's trying also to get a leg up on Letitia James, the state attorney general, who was instrumental in the downfall of Andrew Cuomo. So you see that battle on the left-wing side of the party right there going on.
She has the name recognition that none of the other ones do.
Right. Monty wants to get a leg up on that.
If you didn't mention a name, 90% of the people that are listening to this would not know who the heck he is.
Unless you live in New York City, then you still might not know who he is.
Still not, yeah.
Although he does appear on Tucker Carlson sometimes. He seems to be good friends with Tucker, even though politically their viewpoints are very and vastly divergent. Howard Sturman is the publisher and CEO of the Hometown Media Group here in Westchester. Hometown Media Group with a variety of online publications covering the South Shore area, and also longtime political analyst at 1460 AM WVOX Radio in New Rochelle. Howard Sturman, always a pleasure to have you here on Westchester Talk Radio. This is the Cup of Joe political show. George Latimer, his race for re-election against Christine Schulte, the Republican candidate who worked in the administration of one-time county executive Rob Astorino and former Yonkers mayor Phil Amicone a few years back. It seems like George Latimer might win this race 99% to 1%. We don't see much of Christine Schulte. Why? Why would you, and seemingly she seems to be a sacrificial lamb, why would anyone want to be a sacrificial lamb and have that on their resume?
Well, most people that run for office that don't have a high likelihood of winning are doing it because they've been promised appointed jobs somewhere. The old days, it used to be judgeships for a lot of these lawyers that were running for office. We know you're going to lose, but we're going to have you nominated as a Supreme Court judge or a county judge. Look, I don't know. I honestly haven't spoken to Christine, and I don't know whether what her motives are. I know that she wouldn't have done this to lose 99 to 1, and I don't think that'll ever happen. But she could get upwards of 35% of the vote, even though this campaign is going to be a very, very low turnout.
All right, but you still get 35% of the vote. That's losing by a lot still. You understand?
Well, that's the Republican registration that are going to vote for her because they can't see themselves pushing the Democratic lever.
Tim Idoni for county clerk. He seems to be a shoo-in, I guess, right after holding off the primary challenge.
I would say so. Look, he deserves to be. He has moved that office into the 21st century. It's a smooth running operation. He's an excellent administrator. He comes from an administrative background to begin with. And he deserves to win because he has the experience. If you're going to turn this over to somebody, because nobody really knows what the county clerk does. And if you want, I can go into some of the things that they handle.
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, they are responsible for every mortgage that's recorded, every deed that's recorded. Lawsuits are filed with the county clerk.
Marriage licenses.
It just goes on and on what he does. Now, for example, if you were buying a new home and when you go to the title company that comes to your home, to do your closing, they search the county records to see if there are any liens that nobody has disclosed. They are a very important arm of what we do here in the county. In a lot of cases, it's even more important than the county executive. Because
more important than the county executive.
Right. The county executive is somewhat of a figurehead. He's not even the administrator. He has a deputy county executive, like
Ken
the president.
Jenkins.
That's right. Like the president has a chief of staff. The cabinet members report to the chief of staff in Washington. The commissioners report to Ken Jenkins. So legislation is done by the County Board of Legislators. So it's not as much of an administrative job. Not taking any away from the title. It's an important title, but it's not the same. Idoni has to run that show, even though he has assistants just like the county executive does. But it's a big operation.
Harrison Mayor's supervisor, Ron Belmont, is stepping down after a number of years in office. That seems to be one of the key races in the county, too.
Yeah, I would say that's the race to watch here. It's Frank Gordon versus the Democrat running against Richard D'Annunzio. And the smart money says this is a nail biter.
Mm-hmm. Does Gordon have more of a chance than you would think a Democrat might in modern day Harrison?
Yes. Yeah, because modern day Harrison is not the same as Harrison of old days. The Republican margin that they used to have has dwindled dramatically.
And that's due to a population change and I guess younger people coming in too, correct?
That's right.
Places like Harrison, places like Purchase, for example. Also, You get out of Harrison, you get into, I guess, a little above the Armonk area as well, too, with Mike Shaliro, where he is in office as the town supervisor there, also, too.
Look, all the towns, Rye had a Republican margin. Right now, they have a Democratic mayor. Eastchester barely holds on to their Republican margin. The latest registration of the Democrats has increased dramatically in this county as well as in this state. And some of it chalk it to motor voter registration. There are a variety of reasons. But when someone runs on a Democratic ticket, not only do they look to get votes, they look to get registration also. Mm-hmm. So this is a concerted effort to control the electorate, because at the end of the day, most people don't know much about any of these candidates, and they vote their party affiliation.
I see the way North Castle has changed the last 30 years or so, which was very Republican, late 80s, early 90s. And you had the influx of people coming from places like Manhattan and New York City and other locales around the tri-state area, a younger crowd, a lot of the Wall Street crowd going to a place like Armonk. Yet a Republican like Mike Shaliro can keep getting elected because he's just a little right of center, I guess, not very conservative. And that is nowadays, if you're a Republican, I guess it's what you have to do around Westchester to be in office.
Yeah, you certainly can't be a conservative, and that makes it a lot tougher. And people want to see, look, I think the average person really wants to see, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, somebody that can weigh both sides of the aisle and come up with an educated decision. We don't get that because either people are way left or way right, and the middle is disappearing. If you look in Congress right now, I believe this $3.5 trillion bill, as it should be, is in trouble. And when you start seeing people like Bernie Sanders saying, hold your horses, everybody. I don't want to see this bill come up. I don't want to go bring it on a vote now. There is a lot of dissension amongst the party. And Biden has tried very hard to be a progressive here because he thinks they are the voice, the mouse that roared, I would say, because they are a minority in the Congress, but their voices are louder than some of the majority.
Medford supervisors race another one to keep an eye on further north in the county. Councilwoman and deputy town supervisor Ellen Calves, the Democrat, takes on Republican Don Scott. Ellen Calves defeated the current incumbent Marianne Carr in the Democratic primary. Carr took office after Chris Burdick won election to the state assembly last November. As you talked about Joe Biden a second ago, brought up the president of the United States. His standing around Westchester right now in the wake of the southern border crisis, Afghanistan, inflation, and more. Do Westchesterites who solidly supported Joe Biden against Donald Trump seem to be having any buyer's remorse or looking for a refund at this point?
I don't think any clear-headed thinking person doesn't question Joe Biden's abilities at this state.
What?
This is no longer about Donald Trump. This is about, is he protecting us? Do you feel more secure than you did before? And that's going to be a question. Now, it depends on who the Republicans put up.
All right.
Biden, I think the Democrats and Republicans in Westchester are a lot more thoughtful voters than most other places. I think they weigh the pros and cons. Yes, there are some, people that look at anything and they keep saying that it's Donald Trump's fault that Biden's not doing well as a president. And those people aren't really thinking it out. But there are people that are saying, whoa, what's this guy doing?
Portchester police have implemented a registry for people with special needs, a la Croton, a la Harrison. All the talk over the last 18 months about reimagining policing. Does this fall in line with that, at least to some extent?
Well, this is a progressive movement. Reimagining policing, I think, is a misnomer. There's no imagination here. It's very clear what the goal is to take some of the teeth out of the police force. Now, look, George Soros has supported Democrats running he focused on one job, district attorney. He has been exceptionally successful in funding those jobs for district attorney. Why? Because the district attorney sets the stage for what kind of police force we have. If you have a police force that knows no matter who they pick up for alleged crime, that the DA is going to drop the charges or give them a pat on the back and say, be a good boy and come back, don't come back here again. What's their incentive to risk their lives arresting people? So it's not just the police, it's the whole judicial system that has been revamped. And you see it more in some other states than New York, but it's starting to get here also. I mean, if you look at St. Louis and you look at Chicago and you look at D.C., convicts are being it's almost like an immigration thing, release and or catch and release. So it's very concerning, and since you know that the murder rate in the United States overall is up 30%, it's a problem. It's a problem, and as long as the media is complicit with whitewashing and not asking the hard questions, we're going to keep going in this direction.
Howard Sturman, what is next for Andrew Cuomo?
Well, I hope he catches a fish. I saw he was fishing with his dog recently, his new best friend. And
what happened to the old dog? Never.
No, I think that's Captain. I think that's Captain.
Packing, right? When he got sent packing, he sent that.
Well, yeah, he wasn't too loyal to him, but I think Captain went where he gets his meals. So he came back. But there was a photograph recently of him on a fishing boat with Captain. But what happens to him? I think he's going to slowly fade into the woodwork, like a lot of disgraced politicians have.
All right, Captain came back. He's back with Andrew Cuomo. Many say that Andrew Cuomo wants to be back and run for office again, like maybe governor again. Could he throw his hat into the ring for 2022 against Kathy Hochul, or not this time around at least?
Well, he's certainly capable of doing that. He's got a war chest that, hers is dwarfed by what he has. He's certainly capable of doing it. I don't know if the electorate would be willing to give him another chance. I would doubt it, but in this crazy world that we live in, and it is crazy, I never say never.
Easy come, easy go, as Bobby Sherman once sang in 1970, right? There you go.
That's right.
Although he is gone, but might come back. Maybe. We'll see. Howard Sturman, got to have you back again here in a few weeks, okay? Much appreciated.
All right, John, thank you so much for having me, and I hope all your listeners have a safe and pleasurable day.
And by the way, belated La Shana Tova. Happy holidays to you and yours.
Thank you.
All right, Howard, all the best in the new year. And of course, we are moving, like we said, towards the final months now of 2021. And we look for a better 22 for everybody all the way around. Howard Sturman, the publisher and CEO, Hometown Media Group, Sound Shore area of Westchester. All of his publications are online. Longtime political.
Well, they're also printed, John. They're also
printed too. Yep.
Yes. So we still are printing. People still like to hold the newspaper in their hands,
like I do, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. I tried the online reading thing for a bit. It didn't work for me. So.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work for me. You don't get the sidebars really online, or a look at everything overall, or a chance to put everything, kind of line things up, put it in perspective. I have to have that physical paper with me, or as I've told people, I think when I'm finally done on this earth, you'll likely find me in a Starbucks or a Panera Bread in a nice, comfortable seat, stretched out with a newspaper over me.
Okay, well, that's a way to go.
If you got to go, well, to me, that's a good way to go.
It's in the top 300 ways to go.
It's near the top of my list of how to go. Right. Howard Sturman, also longtime political analyst at 1460 AM, WVOX Radio in New Rochelle. Howard, we thank you here on the Cup of Joe Political Show. I'm John Marino, Westchester Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. By Lipola's Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipola's. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By Tompkins Mahopac Bank. By White Plains Hospital. And by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. Yes, here we are in Westchester Talk Radio. We have our new app too. Download it. It's called Westchester Talk. Take it with you anywhere and everywhere you go. And catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam and Dutchess, Orange and Fairfield County programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube.